So if you don't want to cut the military to the extent that the sequestration would do, then what would be your spending cuts?
Well, what I would say is this, very simple. You go back and you look at the second biggest growth of government, which has come from the 1970s up to today. And you start looking at, redundant and duplicative programs, much the same as the GAO report said earlier this year, $200 to $300 billion of failing and redundant programs. You start looking at some of these agencies that are not meeting up to the original intent of their mission statements. And I'll be very honest. The Department of Energy, which was created for one single reason, to make the United States of America energy independent, hadn't lived up to that mission. So, me coming from the military, that's the first thing I go to. What's your mission statement? What are the goals and objectives you're supposed to be achieving? And if you're not achieving those, well, then something's not right. And I think that's what we have to look at. We have to look at where do we make the cuts in Washington, D.C., and where do we then start looking at the right type of the tax policy, the progressive tax code system that we have in America. It's got to be reformed. And that's one of the things that was brought up in the super committee, but some people walked away from the table on that. There's another interesting editorial in Wall Street Journal today that talks about how America is, when you look at our corporate business tax rate and compared to the rest of the world, I mean, we're not setting the conditions for our corporations and businesses to want to be here in America to grow. You're talking about the second highest corporate business tax rate in the world at 35%. Then when you add on all the other taxes, state corporate business tax rate, now you're talking about upwards to about 46.7%. Well, guess what? You can't operate here in America like that. So, one of the things that they talked about in the super committee was take that from 35%, bring it down to 25%, and eliminate these loopholes that we have. Just give a competitive tax rate. I believe you could take it down to 20 to 21%. So that's what I'm talking about with the right type of policies that set the conditions for growth in this country. And it's not election cycle sound bites. That's what's killing this country. People tell the electorate the things that they think they want to hear just to get reelected. America operates in 2-year or 4-year cycles, while the rest of the world, and our enemies especially, operate in 30, 40, 50-year cycles. And that's where we end up losing.
When you talk about, you mentioned a minute ago about cutting the military 500, well, I don't remember the
500 to 600 billion, that's what it was.
Over 10 years.
On top
yeah.
of the 450 to 460 we've already said we're going to cut.
Okay. And now you're looking at $1 trillion deficit. So even if you cut 500 billion over 10 years, that's chump change in terms of the deficit. I mean, so you're talking, and even if, I don't know what the Department of Energy's budget is, but
yeah, but that's a place to start. I mean, like I said, we can look at the Department of Agriculture and all the subsidies that are there. When I look at the side-by-side comparison between the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the Department of Commerce, there's a lot of redundancies that are there. Department of Education, since late 1970s when it was grown. I mean, look at how that bureaucracy has grown, but look how the standards of education in the United States of America is going in the opposite direction. So I think that's the type of hard analysis we have to look at. In my first 90 days up there, like I said, I sit on the Armed Services Committee. We sat down and we found 3 wasteful programs in the Department of Defense. And we brought it up. It ends up saving the American taxpayer. People may say it's not much, $350 million over 10 years. But it passed on the House floor 393 to 0. Now think, if every single member did their homework and found those type of, wasteful programs and brought it to the House floor, multiply 350 million times 435. Now what would that do?